In May 1940, Nazi Germany launched a bold and devastating invasion of France. Known as the Battle of France, this campaign shocked the world with its speed, ruthlessness, and strategic brilliance. But amid the German triumphs, one moment has puzzled historians for decades: Hitler's Halt Order, a sudden, controversial pause in the German advance that may have changed the course of the war. At the same time, a horrific and often overlooked tragedy was unfolding at a small French fort called La Ferté, where a doomed garrison would make a tragic last stand. In this WWII documentary special, we revisit 10 days in Sedan, where France's fate was sealed, and La Ferté became a symbol of courage and catastrophe. Cross swords, the Ardennes offensive and the fall of Sedan. By the spring of 1940, German forces had already conquered Poland, and Hitler turned his attention westward. France and Britain were preparing for a long, defensive war. They believed the German assault would repeat World War I's pattern: direct attacks through Belgium into northern France. But Hitler had a different plan, the Manstein Plan, or Sichelschnitt, sickle cut. Key strategy: German tanks would feint through Belgium, drawing Allied forces north. The real attack would come through the dense Ardennes forest, thought to be impassable for large forces. The goal was to cross the river Meuse at Sedan, punch through the French lines and encircle Allied armies from the rear. May 10, 1940, the German invasion begins. Within days, the Wehrmacht pushes through Belgium and enters the Ardennes. May 13, 1940, German troops cross the Meuse at Sedan. The French defenses, poorly coordinated and manned by reserves, collapse under heavy air bombardment and tank assaults. Within 10 days, the Germans open a massive breach in the Allied lines. France is in chaos. Stop sign: Hitler's Halt Order, a strange pause. What was the Halt Order? As German tanks surged forward and the French defenses disintegrated, an unexpected command came from Berlin. All armored divisions are to halt their advance. This directive, given by Adolf Hitler himself, stopped the German panzers just days away from capturing the trapped Allied forces in northern France, particularly at Dunkirk. Why did Hitler issue the order? Historians still debate the reasons, but key theories include: fear of overextension. The German high command, including Hitler, feared the fast-moving panzer divisions might become vulnerable without infantry and supply lines catching up. Luftwaffe confidence. Hermann Göring, head of the German Air Force, convinced Hitler the Luftwaffe could finish off the British and French forces at Dunkirk. Terrain misjudgment. Hitler and his generals believed the terrain near the French coast, floodplains and canals, was unsuitable for tanks. The consequence: the halt gave the British and French forces precious days to evacuate from Dunkirk, the legendary Operation Dynamo. Over 330,000 Allied troops escaped, who would later return to liberate Europe in 1944. Brick: the tragedy at La Ferté. While the German spearheads stormed across the Meuse, French troops at the Maginot Line were still waiting, expecting the main battle to come to them. La Ferté, the westernmost fort of the Maginot Line, near Sedan, suddenly found itself isolated, surrounded, and under siege. May 14 to 19, 1940. The Germans launched a massive assault on the fort, which was never meant to face such direct attacks without support. La Ferté had only 104 men. It was cut off from reinforcements. German forces targeted it with heavy artillery, including 88mm guns and flame weapons. Ventilation systems failed and fire spread through the underground corridors. May 19, 1940. The Germans breached the fort. When French reinforcements finally arrived, all 104 defenders were found dead, suffocated, burned, or buried. La Ferté became the only Maginot Line fort to be completely destroyed in combat, and its garrison the only one entirely wiped out. Military medal, a symbol of misplaced defense and heroic sacrifice. The fall of La Ferté represents the tragic flaw in French strategy. France invested heavily in static defenses, the Maginot Line, expecting a war like 1914. But the Germans fought a high-speed, mobile war using blitzkrieg tactics. French command structures were outdated, slow to react, and unprepared for modern warfare. The defenders of La Ferté fought with courage, but they were abandoned by a system that failed to understand the war it was fighting. Counterclockwise arrows button connecting the dots. The larger picture. The fall of Sedan, the Halt Order, and the La Ferté tragedy are not isolated events. They are chapters of the same narrative. The collapse at Sedan exposed France's deep military weaknesses. Hitler's Halt Order, while tactical at the time, became one of his most questioned decisions. The destruction of La Ferté became a symbol of bravery amidst betrayal, the human cost of flawed military thinking. In just 10 days the tide of war changed forever. France was defeated and Britain was left to stand alone. Candle legacy and reflection. Today the site of La Ferté is preserved as a memorial, with the remains of its defenders still entombed in the collapsed galleries. It stands as a reminder of the cost of underestimating the enemy, the danger of inflexible strategy, and the courage of those who stood their ground, even when it was hopeless. Meanwhile, debates about Hitler's Halt Order continue to echo through history books. Was it a strategic pause or a fatal mistake? One thing is clear: during those 10 days in Sedan, the world watched as France unraveled, and the fire of World War II burned ever hotter.